Well, hello there everybody, Boyd here with you. Well, what you guys are looking at in front of you today is a beautiful kit from Merit Models of the 1/350 scale USS Enterprise CV-6, the famous aircraft carrier from World War II. I want to say a really big shout out to Henry Schmidt. Henry's a follower of our channel here, and he goes by the name Dogs of War on YouTube. Henry sent me a couple of airplane kits a while back that you guys might remember. And I'm just really thankful that Henry sent this to us. He talked about sending some extras with it too, and I was really surprised to see that inside the box we got some extra airplanes from Trumpeter models and a really nice book about the history of the Yorktown class aircraft carriers in World War II. Some really interesting information and a lot of pictures. For those of you that don't know, the USS Enterprise was the most highly decorated Navy ship in World War II. And it served in every major campaign except the Battle of the Coral Sea, in which it missed because it was on its way back to Pearl Harbor for some maintenance. But every other major battle in the war it served and took part in, including the famous Doolittle raid, even though the USS Hornet gets the credit for actually launching the aircraft. The Enterprise was there as escort and in support. Of course, the famous Battle of Midway, the Battle of Leyte Gulf. I mean, on and on and on. Every major conflict in World War II in the Pacific, the Enterprise was part of it. And it was a shame. A huge effort was put underway after the end of the war to save the ship and turn it into a museum. Admiral Bullhousey himself went to Congress and tried to get it saved, but they wound up scrapping her. I think they scrapped her sometime in the early 1950s. It's kind of odd that that happened because you have some of the other lesser-known ships that actually survived. The Lexington, which is actually moored down here in Corpus Christi, which is the second incarnation of the Lexington. The original Lexington was lost during the war. I suppose I could see what the Navy was thinking. You know, the Lexington was, you know, a more modern ship. The Enterprise, by the standards of the end of the war, was actually getting, you know, not one of the larger carriers. She wasn't as fast as some of the newer carriers, but I mean, just due to the history of this ship, it should have been preserved. You know, for example, you have the USS Intrepid, which has been preserved in his museum out on the East Coast. You know, she doesn't have nearly the pedigree that the Enterprise did. I'm glad that they saved any of them, but it would have been really nice to save the Enterprise. Her main mast and some other parts off the ship, I think, are at one of the naval installations somewhere in the United States. I'm not sure, but anyway, it was a real shame that they didn't save her. But this is a fantastic model kit. It comes with some photo etch parts. We'll just kind of show you the side panel here. There's a nice shot of the ship here with some kind of color call-outs there. This is basically the way she appeared at the Battle of Midway, which is the version I'm going to do. So Henry included some extra airplanes, like I said, from Trumpeter that are in scale. You get, you know, a pretty good assortment here of aircraft with the kit, but we have even more, and we can do a little bit more detail on those. The kit does come with some nice photo etch parts, nice decal set. So it's a really nice kit. I've never built anything from Merit before, so we'll just have to kind of see you know, how the kit goes together. I had a rough look at it, and it, you know, it looks really beautiful. The detail on the hull alone, with all the plating and everything, was really nice. So let me reposition the camera here real quick, and we'll just take a quick peek inside the box and check it out a little bit. Be right back. Okay, well, let's take the lid off this beautiful kit here and check out what's inside, everybody. I took a quick look at this a little while ago, and I was just really impressed by everything. You can see right here on the top we've got this really nice book. Let me see if I can see who this was printed by. Classic Warships Publishing. There's a couple of color photos here on the back. This is the actual nice color shot of the gray that we need to paint our Enterprise. This is the actual Yorktown here. Beautiful shot of the USS Hornet on the cover with her really cool looking camouflage paint job. If you guys follow these, you know, the history of these ships, the Hornet was discovered last year by the Paul Allen Group. I forgot what the name of their RV Petrel, I think, is the name of the ship. They've been out in the Pacific for the last couple of years discovering all these really famous warships. They actually found a couple of the Japanese carriers from the Battle of Midway that people have been searching for probably 25 or 30 years. And they're going to be going back out, I assume, after maybe when everything kind of settles down with the virus and everything. But this is a really nice book. It's got a lot of reference material. There's a whole bunch of history in here about the USS Enterprise. You know, we had the Hornet, the Yorktown, and the Enterprise all in the same. They were, you know, three sisters that were launched within a year of each other. Let me see if we're getting into the Enterprise here. Yeah, these are some of the pictures of the Enterprise. So I'll have a lot of nice reference material to look up when I go ahead and, you know, build the model. Like I said, I think I'm gonna build it as it was depicted, or how it looked during the Battle of Midway, which she was just a basic ocean gray with a blue flight deck. So we'll kind of, you know, figure that out. I've got some of the life colors, you know, the U.S. Navy life colors, which are some really nice acrylic paints for scale model warships. So I should be able to find something in that batch that'll work really well for this build. But you can just see some of the shots in action. Now, I wasn't aware of it, but towards the end of the war, she was actually done on a really cool looking dazzle scheme. I think there aren't many pictures of it like that, and I had no idea. I thought it was always a sort of a basic gray, but that's a really cool, you know, really cool looking scheme. But it was later in the war. She even had the honor at the end of being a troop transport. She brought back a lot of people at the end of the war, you know, during the last months and a few months after the war was over. So she even had an honorable mention in that category, not to mention all of her battle achievements. But some great information here, so that's a really nice book. Thank you so much for that, Henry. We've got the basic instruction sheet here. I'll just we're not going to really go through that. It's pretty basic, just assembly and everything. Here's the color callouts. You've got some paint listings from Vallejo, Mr. Hobby, Model Master, Tamiya, and Humbrol. This color scheme right here is pretty much the one I'm going to go with. I think this is the mid-war paint scheme version. You can see it's got the ocean gray. You've got your anti-fouling red color on the bottom and a sort of a dark blue deck color, which is really interesting. She had the big number 6s on her deck at certain points of the war. I think it was later, at the very end of the war, it had the big number 6s on there. So we will probably leave those off to make it accurate here, but you've got all the paint callouts for the airplanes as well. She was equipped with F4Fs, TBDs, and SPDs. Throughout the middle part of the war, I think later in the war, she had F6F Hellcats and so on. Looking at some of the detail here, you can see here's the island with the smokestack up on top. There's some nice slots cut in here. Looks like the window ports are all closed. Now, one thing I want to mention too, as I was already reading a little bit of the history of this, she had a lot of portholes on her on the lower part of the hull. And when the war started, they went ahead and welded all those holes shut. You know, they may have had some functioning on the upper decks on the superstructure, but the lower portholes were all welded shut. And that was due to one of the major warships that sunk. It was discovered that a lot of the water came in through portholes, so they eliminated that problem. Here are some decals from Starfighter decals, which Henry has included extra. So some deck markings and all the roundels for the aircraft, and a lot of small little stuff there. Pretty cool. This is the some parts. I'm not gonna open all these boxes, but here we've got a bunch of little extra airplanes from Trumpeter. Let's see, we've got the Douglas SPDs, Douglas TBDs, and what else have we got here? F4F Wildcats. So these are just a little bit more detailed than the kit supplied airplanes, which is going to be nice to have when we get around to adding those. It's really interesting looking at some of these pictures and everything in this book. They would really pack the aircraft on there. I mean, they literally would have the entire deck packed where you couldn't even hardly walk in between the airplanes. It was really amazing to see that. I didn't know that they crowded the deck that much. Here's the hull, and we'll take this out real quick and show you what this looks like. The mold looks really nice. There's, of course, the usual parting line here on the bottom, but on the sides it all looks nice and clean, and the plating detail on here is real nice. We're not going to have to worry about opening up the portholes, like I said, because at this point in the war, when I'm going to build the ship, all these were already welded shut. So, you know, you still have the reliefs there, which you'll see when a shadow hits it or whatever, but you won't have to have them open. So that'll save a lot of time. So that's just beautiful. And Enterprise was known for being very maneuverable. I want to point out one thing here to the front. She had a really wide kind of a sweep at the top of her bow, which was turned out to be really beneficial in rough seas. She could launch aircraft without too much worry of you know, the waves splashing over the deck because of that extra feature there, which is kind of interesting. Now, one thing that I didn't see mentioned in the book that I remember reading somewhere else, Enterprise, at some point in the war, probably mid-war or a little later, was one of the first aircraft carriers to receive the CVN designation. The N designation in modern aircraft carriers means nuclear, but at that point in World War II, the N stood for night operations, and the Enterprise was had one of the first fighter groups where they perfected flying at night using onboard radar on the aircraft, which is a really interesting fact. I think they developed it quite a bit more after that, but the Enterprise was always, you know, kind of ahead of everything. And she was known throughout the war of having a superbly trained damage control crew, which allowed her to survive, you know, several really bad incidents. She got hit several times with bombs. I don't think she ever took a torpedo hit, but she got bombed several times and had to return for repairs. And the crew always saw to it that they made it back. Where unfortunately her sister ship Hornet and Yorktown unfortunately didn't make it. So she has a lot of gallant history, and I'm really excited to build this. And you guys remember, since probably the very beginning of my channel, I've always wanted to have a 1/350 scale Enterprise CV-6 to display next to the 1/350 scale TOS Enterprise. I think that'll be a really cool display. The Enterprise from the, you know, TV show being fictional, of course, but they should just look really cool together. So the Enterprise name has a lot of gallant history behind it, we'll say. So I hope you guys enjoyed seeing this, and again, thank you so much, Henry. I'll try to do this model the justice that it deserves. It's a beautiful kit, and you can look forward to watching it get built up here on the channel sometime this winter. I think I'm going to put this ahead of the Titanic. The Titanic 200 scale kit that I have, I'm just, like I mentioned several times, a lot of people have asked about that. I'm really going to be taking my time on that one. I've got a ton of money invested into the kit and all the aftermarket stuff, and it's just got so much work that needs to be done to it with all the lighting and everything. I'm watching a bunch of other YouTube videos to find out the trials and tribulations of building that kit, what works and what doesn't. I'm seeing a lot of really cool ideas out there for it, and I have a few cool ideas of my own of what I want to do to it, but just be patient, guys. The Titanic fans out there, we'll get to it, but it won't be a big hurried thing. It may take me a year or so to build that model. It just needs a whole lot of work. I can probably build this model here in a couple of weeks, so we'll get it knocked out sometime this winter. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed seeing this again, and we'll catch up with you on the next video. Take care, and like always, happy modeling, everyone.